and welcome to Taking the Scenic Route, Scenic Regional Library's bi-weekly podcast. I'm Steve Campbell, the library's director. Our podcast provides listeners with a closer look at the library, including interviews with upcoming program presenters, information about new and existing services, interviews with authors, book recommendations from our staff, and much, much more. So let's jump right in and get started. As I've mentioned before, our library has a great partnership with the Missourian. Once a quarter, we have 6 or 7 library staff members write reviews for books that they've read and enjoyed. And we send those reviews to the Missourian along with a photo of each reviewer holding a copy of their book. And the Missourian publishes those reviews as a front page feature article in their People section. And our last feature was just recently published in mid-March. And I know that not all residents in our library district read the Missourian or in the newspaper service area. So I thought it was a good idea to have a couple of our reviewers on the podcast to talk about the books they reviewed for that special article. And I'm joined today by 2 staff members, Tiffany Richards, who is manager at our Hermann Branch, and Genevieve, who is the adult programmer at our Sullvan Branch. And they are going to talk about their books. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You there too, Tiffany?
Yep, thanks for having me.
So we'll start with Genevieve. Genevieve, what book did you select for the Missourian?
So I picked The Pumpkin Spice Café by Laurie Gilmore. It's one that was somewhat recently released. It came out in 2023. It was really popular on Book Talk for the longest time. It was just known for being like a really cozy romance to read. So I read it earlier this year, and I just absolutely loved it. It's the first one in a 5-book series, Dream Harbor. But the story kind of starts with Jeannie. She lives in the big city and then moves down to this tiny little town. And whenever she inherited her aunt's coffee shop. So she starts working with the coffee shop and trying to get it to where it's growing. And stuff just keeps going wrong. And she thinks someone's sabotaging her. So she employs the help of the local farmer, Logan. And he ends up on coming in and kind of helping her figure out what's going on and just kind of the different problems within the coffee shop. And as the story progresses, of course, since it's a romance, they fall in love. And it's very much a small town feel. So for people that liked the Gilmore Girls and the Luke Lorelai sort of romance that happened, that's definitely what this is based off of. And so in the end, of course, there's a happily ever after, but it's a very cute read.
Oh, you shouldn't give away the ending. You ruined it.
Everyone needs to know whenever it's a happily ever after. I like to know going in.
Some people like to know going. I was just discussing this with someone the other day about if people wanted to know going in or whether they wanted to be surprised, about an ending of a book.
Yeah. If it was a thriller, I wouldn't say it. But since it's a romance, I let everyone know they'll like the way it ends.
So besides romance, is there any other genres they classify this under? Would it just contemporary romance?
It's definitely contemporary romance. I know it's also been cataloged under cozy fiction.
Okay.
As well. So, and it has a little bit of mystery, but not a lot. It's more of like a subplot than anything else.
Have you read other books by the author?
Yes. So, like I said, it's part of a 5-book series. I read this one, which I think was her debut album, and then I read the next 2,
debut book.
I'm sorry?
Debut book? You said debut album.
Book.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, debut book. My brain is just not functioning.
You're on music. Your brain's on music.
It is. But no, it's her debut book. And then I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore and The Christmas Tree Farm, which were the next 2. And then she recently had her 4th one come out, which is The Strawberry Pancake House. And each book kind of falls in a different season of the year. So like the Pumpkin Spice Café and Cinnamon Bun are more fall. Christmas Tree Store is like winter, and then the Pancake House one is like spring. So that way you got a cozy book for each season.
I was going to say she has a book for every season. Yeah, wow. So can someone jump in and read another book in the series without having read the first few, or they have to kind of go in order?
You can read them in any order. They're standalone. They are part of the same series, same town, but they can all be read as standalones, which is really nice that way. Since it's spring, you can kick off with the spring one and then read the other ones whenever you're in those seasons as well.
Yeah. So you highly recommend this author and this book?
Absolutely. Definitely, I do.
Very good. Tiffany, what book did you review for the Missourian?
Yeah, so I reviewed Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. I am a big fan of audiobooks, so I actually listened to the book, which I think is the best way to do this book, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But the main premise of the book is Lucy is found wandering in the streets, covered in her best friend's blood, Sabby, who later on they find out that she was murdered. However, Lucy has no memories of the event happening, so she can't say she did or didn't do it. She honestly just doesn't know. However, she's lived her whole life with this kind of stigma in the town that she's from, that everyone thinks she's the killer. So she moves to LA, start a new life, and as with everything, podcasts have arrived in the world, and the host, Ben, is coming to the town to reopen this cold case for his true crime podcast. And so Amy comes back into town to see what's going on because she's kind of curious because she wants to know what happened to her best friend. And as they're both unsolving the mystery, they come to find out what really happens. The best part about this book is when you're listening to it, not only do you get the point of view from Lucy, but you also get the point of view from the snippets of the audio recordings that are done by the podcast. So you'll get some of her viewpoint, and then you'll cut to some interviews with some of the people that were around during the time, the police officers that investigate it. You'll also get snippets of people telling the truth on things or not telling the truth on things. So as you're reading and putting the pieces together, you're really the detective trying to figure out what actually happened and what went wrong. And you're trying to figure out, can you trust Lucy? Because she can't even trust herself when she's talking about things. So you don't know if you can trust her or not. And you definitely don't know if you can trust Ben, and you're not quite sure what's going on. And then at the end, there's kind of a bit of a twist, as with all mystery thriller books, of how it really shakes out.
And this is not based on a true story in any way, correct?
No.
Okay.
But the fun part, like I said, is this like extra material to it. It kind of almost gives the vibes of like the back in the day when they had the radio shows where you would listen to it and people would act it out.
Yeah.
It very much has that vibe. So it's not like you're just reading a book necessarily, like you're kind of transported into these moments, putting these pieces together. And it has, the audiobook has a full cast,
Wow.
which is really great. Yeah.
When we go on family vacation, strangely enough, we listen to true crime podcasts, and I've always thought it'd be fascinating for there to be a book like that written. I guess there's been many already, I'm sure, but I always thought that would be a very fascinating concept to have a fiction book about a podcast solving or documenting a crime. That'd be
And this one does it so well. Yeah, I did it. I think I listened to it on a road trip with my family. In the middle, we're like, who do you think it is? I don't know. What do you think? And we'd all give our hypothesis. And then as the book unfolds, somebody would be like, actually, I'm changing my bet. I don't think he did it. I think this other person did it.
Have you read other books by this author?
So she's done a lot of YA books. This is her first, for an adult audience book. So I haven't read anything else that she's written, but this was kind of the first book that set off going down the rabbit hole for me on books that have podcast elements or have this kind of supplementary or enriching parts to their audiobooks. And I found a few that kind of fall into that I've really found very great to listen to or to read.
So now you've gone down a wormhole for these podcast murder books.
Yes.
Have you found others? Have you found a lot of others that fall into this genre, the subgenre?
Yeah, So there's a couple, because I always love a good book written by multiple narrators. And so the whole time you're trying to figure out.
Like our community read book is multiple narrators.
Yes, and you're trying to figure out who you trust and who you don't trust. The one I would say is the biggest read-alike to this is called Such a Bad Influence by Olivia Muntner. Oh. In that premise, there's two sisters. They kind of grew up in the spotlight, and one sister really embraced the idea of being an influencer. And so she just turned 18, and she's bringing in really great deals as an influencer. However, in one of her live streams, she ends up going missing. And so her older sister is trying to put the pieces together, what happened to her, but it's also snippets of, this one is snippets of other people who do podcasts about her sister Evie, and reading forums on Reddit are coming into it too. So it's kind of really interesting how these books are taking technology that we use all of the time and integrating them into the stories and giving the pieces of it.
That makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that would happen for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Genevieve, has she sold you on her book, or that's not your thing?
I think I'm gonna have to check it out. I like a good thriller, especially whenever it comes to like crime. So I'm
Sold.
definitely yep, I'm sold.
Genevieve, are there any? I know Tiffany said this author has primarily written YA books before the book Tiffany just reviewed, and also she's not really been in the genre before. But you've read romances before. Is there another author that writes in a similar manner to the one you just reviewed?
Not that I've read. I
Okay.
wish I would find one, but this is the first one that I've found that really has like that small town Gilmore Girls feel.
Sure.
So
I
hopefully I'll
just
find some soon.
Yeah, I just thought maybe someone who, if they've heard of the other author, they would know this one is going to be similar to it.
Yeah, probably the closest that I would say, one that I'm reading right now. It's another small town one, but it takes place in Rome, Kentucky. It's When in Rome by Sarah Adams. It's a 4-book series. I've read the first 3. The next one's getting ready to come out, but it's kind of plays off of like Audrey Hepburn a little bit. So her movie Roman Holiday, it's kind of like a modern version of that. And then it kind of follows a family of 4 siblings, and each book they find like their one true love or their love interest. And
You
so
do
that one,
like the happy endings, don't you?
yes, I do. I like romance books and thrillers. Romance because I always know how it's going to end, and thrillers because I don't.
Okay,
Those are
thrillers
my
typically don't end well, I'm thinking.
Yep, that's why I enjoy mixing it up between those two.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining me. Appreciate you submitting reviews for the Missourian. We'll have another quarterly People section review article out in a few months. We'll have to try to track down some reviewers among the staff for that one. But I appreciate both writing reviews this time, and I hope everyone will check out your books.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for
Thanks.
having us.
My next guest is Helen Birch. She will be presenting Learn to Dance the 1920s Way at our branches throughout April for our community read programming. The programs will be at the Sullvan Branch on Thursday, April 17th at 6 p.m., the Hermann Branch on Tuesday, April 22nd at 6 p.m., and our Owensville Branch on Thursday, April 24th at 6 p.m. Helen, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, let's get started by having you talk a little bit about your background in dance.
Absolutely. So I started dancing around the age of 12. We had homeschool parties, and that was the thing to do there. We would all get together and go swing dancing. After that, we moved to Missouri, and I joined the Missouri S&T Aerial Swing Dance Club,
Oh.
and that is actually where I first learned the Charleston step. We started learning Lindy Hop at that club.
So you didn't do, I'm trying to think, I know other kids that have been in dance as teenagers and they learned like jazz dance, hip hop dance, all these different styles of dance. When you began dancing at 12, you really started with the swing dancing right from the start.
Yes, I started with swing dance, and like most dance enthusiasts, you get addicted and you just keep going and finding new styles. So yeah, the different styles that I do and teach are anywhere from West Coast swing, East Coast swing, line dancing. There's a lot of line dancing, and then like the cowboy cha-cha,
Wow.
like it just nightclub two-step, country two-step, like the more you dance, the more you learn, and it just kind of keeps branching out after that. So
Was there
yeah.
something when you were that age that attracted you to that specific type of dance? Because that's a little unusual type of dance. I mean, most like young girls that I know who join dance are interested in ballet or, like I said, hip hop or something like that. Like, what attracted you to that particular type of dance?
Once you try it, you will know.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say anything in particular attracted me to that style. It just happened to be what I was exposed to at those parties. And once I did dance it, I was like, this is so much fun. It was a great way to socialize, talk to people, excellent for exercise, for memory. And it just, the more and more you did it, the more addicted you became to it.
So you're also involved with something called the Legacy Dance Club in Cuba, Missouri.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that group?
Yes, absolutely. So I moved to Cuba a little over 2 years ago. And when I want to dance, I have to drive either to St. Louis, which is about an hour and a half. There is Stovall's Grove, which is slightly closer. There's Club Rodeo all the way down in St. Robert, but there's not much.
Yeah.
And the venues that are there, they weren't kid friendly, they weren't family friendly. It was strictly, in a nightclub type of setting. So I wanted to offer locals something more, something that their whole family could attend. One thing is that, we used to dance all the time. Like, you go to Merrimack Caverns, it's even in their tour. They said that, like, we used to have dances here. It used to be a social thing. Everybody knew how to dance. The more and more years that go by, the less people are dancing, the less they know. It's getting to the point where unless you purposely seek it out, you don't know how to dance. I founded Legacy Dance Club with the intention of bringing the legacy of dance back to our society. So, a legacy is something you leave behind when you are gone. Like I said, very few people are dancing anymore. It is something that if we don't continue to teach the next generation, we will have lost so much history, like this Charleston, like other famous moves.
So where does the Legacy Dance Club hold their dances that
So I am either contracted, like through the library or through other events like the St. James Cancer Gala, different events that I've had. Either I'm contracted or I choose to host them at available venues.
is there a charge for that? For people that are listening to this might want to come down to Crawford County to dance because it might be the closest place to where they live. Is there a charge for those dances to learn how to dance?
Yes, so I always try and keep it very affordable. At max, it's going to be $5 a person.
Okay. And you were telling me on the phone, I think when we talked earlier this week, that you've had up to 150 people at these dances. Like they're like jam packed, right?
Yeah, it varies. It depends on, time of year, what day of the week I'm doing them. It just depends. But yeah, some of them have been very large, like over 150, and some of them, like some of the library locations, might be less, maybe 10 people. It just depends
Sure.
on,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it just depends on what style, what's going on at that time of the year that might be pulling other people away.
Now,
So,
does the Legacy Dance Club have like a website or a social media page that someone could go to and follow to see where these dances are coming up at?
yes, so I have the Legacy Dance Club on Facebook,
Okay.
and you guys are welcome to join that. And I post any events, where I'm going to be, what's going on. I have these library events posted in there as well.
Okay, great. I had to plug your stuff, your dances and things. So
Yeah,
what
thank
so
you.
you're gonna be teaching people how to do the Charleston at the programs you're doing for the library for our community read. What can you tell me about the Charleston? I don't really know much about it other than some videos I've seen of people doing it back in the 1920s, obviously. What can you give me about that particular dance?
Yes, absolutely. The Charleston is one of several moves that were very popular in the 20s. The Charleston itself, you probably recognize it. It's been in a lot of movies, and like I said, it's the most well-known move of the 20s. And it would look like with your right foot stepping forward, right foot back, left foot forward. And usually you would do some twisting and you would be using your hands as well. So, yeah, that's what I'll be teaching.
And you said it's part of a bigger dance then?
It's not part of a bigger dance. It
Oh.
is it is one dance move of that time. But
Oh,
it
I
is
see.
the
Oh, I misunderstood you. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah, no,
Okay.
you're fine. But it is the
Okay.
most famous of the dance moves during the 20s.
Okay. Now, how did you learn the Charleston exactly?
I think the first time I danced it was when I was doing Lindy Hop with the Missouri S&T Aerial Swing Dance Club.
Okay.
And then it's also tied into a lot of line dances.
Oh, really? I
Hmm.
didn't realize that. Wow.
Yes,
Huh. I didn't realize that Charleston influenced country line dancing. That is very interesting. Huh.
it
So,
has.
can you dance the Charleston to any type of music or any type of song, or is it only certain songs that you can dance the Charleston to?
So the Charleston can be danced to quite a few different styles. It tends to be a little faster tempo, but we dance, especially in line dancing. I teach the Charleston step. It opens with two Charleston step moves to the song Fireball, and we will dance that at nightclubs or you know our social dancing and stuff. But no, it can be danced to quite a few different styles of music and beats per minute.
Okay. Because I assume when you hear the Charleston, because it was from the 1920s, that people were dancing it to jazz music. But then you even mentioned country music it can be danced to. I mean, it's pretty much all over the place, right?
Correct. One of the things I explain to them too when I teach this dance is that the more you dance, the easier it gets. And you're learning the Charleston is like one brick with the foundation of dance, and you will learn quite a few different bricks inside the dance that I'm teaching. And when it comes time to learn a new dance, you're going to go into muscle memory because you're going to know this is the Charleston, this is a jazz box, this is this. And it actually makes you a far better dancer the more that you can learn and do these moves. Like our moves are individual for this class, but the more you can dance individually, the better you will be with a partner dance.
Have you ever learned a new dance by just watching like really old videos, like from the 20? I assumed, for example, that you learned the Charleston or anybody did by watching videos people doing it back then. Have you ever learned a dance that way, or is that impossible to do?
Absolutely. I do learn them by watching them.
Oh,
So I am a kinesthetic learner. I learn by doing. So there's three main types. There's kinesthetic, visual, and auditory. So my first is kinesthetic. So if I cannot actually jump in and do it, like if I go out to a place where they're line dancing or doing something, the best way for me to learn it is to just jump in and fake it till I make it. But with that, there are so many movies. Even with the Aerial Swing Dance Club, we would watch a movie. I'm trying to think of the name. Hell's a Poppin'. It is a very old movie. I'll have to look up what year. And there are some very famous moves and flips and crazy dance moves from that. It looks like it was released in 1941. So yeah, I do tend to watch movies, get inspiration, learn a crazy flip or trick, and yeah, come back, learn it.
wow. YouTube must have just endless footage for you of old dances, I'm sure.
It does. You should YouTube that like on your own
You
time.
should YouTube that.
Yes,
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. So people who come to your program at the library, they're going to be actually learning. This isn't a demo. They're going to actually get to do the dancing. You're going to show them how to do it, correct?
correct. It takes about the first 30 minutes to learn all the steps and about the next 30 to practice and master
Sure.
them.
I would need 3 hours, but yeah, for a normal person, I'm sure 30 minutes and 30 minutes. Okay. Now, is this for children too, or just mainly adults?
With the library, they did initially put an 18 and older, but they have said that anywhere from 10 on up can attend.
Okay. And your Legacy Dance Club dances, that's all adults or mostly adults,
No,
or
there
no?
is
Oh,
no age limit on
really?
that.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Do you have a lot of kids that
Yes.
show up? Oh,
And
really? But kids that
yes,
were like you probably when they were 12 wanting to learn how to dance.
exactly. Yes. In fact, one of the dances that I'm contracted to do is for a group in Rolla, and it is almost entirely homeschoolers, mostly adolescent women, just
Wow.
like me starting out. And it's great to give them that.
That's interesting, the homeschool connection. Like that's how you learned how to do it. And then I know when I was a kid, maybe 12 or so, the church I was going to at the time, the youth group, they did square dancing. They taught us how to square dance. It's interesting how
Yes.
that's where people often learn how to dance at church one way or another. I don't know what the event was or whatever, but I remember they had someone come in and they were showing us how to square dance, which is a very odd thing. At the
Yes.
time, I thought.
I've actually taught in churches as well.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's great though. It's great recreational. He said it's good exercise
It
as
is.
well as I guess you could dance throughout your entire life. It's a lifelong type of activity you can engage in. So
Yes, what's wonderful about dance is, yes, the physical aspect of it. It is working out in the best, most enjoyable way. And with the dancing, also the mental benefits. It's actually used to help prevent certain diseases, and it helps with dementia. It's used as therapy for different injuries and ailments. So,
hmm.
not to mention the amazing people you meet along the way. I have formed lifelong friendships with so many of my dancing friends. I can go up to St. Louis and go and dance with, 20 different guys up there and girls, because we'll often learn there's lead and follower. The longer you dance, you tend to learn both roles. And when I go up there, I will go and dance with very many men and women up there. And like I said, just the friendships that you make. A lot of them are on my Facebook, but I might not see them
Sure.
for months at a time. Go up, pick up right where you left off. And it's a family affair. There's a husband, a wife, a daughter up there. And every time I get to go and connect with all of them. Anyways, it builds very strong friendships as well.
So among the adults you have at these dance events, are they all ages? Do you have people in their 70s and 80s dancing too?
So I have had people of all ages dance with me. I will go grab a little kid, or I have had one older gentleman. He literally put down his walker to come two step with me. And we went round
Wow.
and round for the whole song. We never did a single turn. We just two stepped and had some nice conversation.
So people don't show up as couples, like they're coming individually a lot of times. Would you say that to these dances?
Correct. There is usually one partner who likes to dance and one who doesn't. And the one who does says, I like it enough that I'm going to go by myself. And so, yeah, they come out, and like I said, all ages, all different ability types too. And, whether it be like a girl sitting on the sideline, you grab them, you go, you dance. And that's one thing too, is I think there's a stigma that in order to dance with someone you have to be in a relationship, or you can't dance with them because you're in a relationship. And it is not at all like that in the dance community. It is nothing more than a way to socialize. It'd be no different than, hey, do you want to go bowl with this person?
Mhm.
Like all in the same room in just a different lane.
I think probably it probably got that way because I mean dancing is you're touching each other. It's a little different than
Mhm.
bowling, let's say, for example. I mean, you're physically, like you said, lifting people even with some of the dances. So I mean, you are physically engaging with the person, I guess, in a way. Wouldn't you say that's a difference for sure?
Yes, I would say it would depend on the type of dancing you were doing. So there is one style called bachata that is very sensual, and that one would make a lot, even in the dance community, it's controversial.
Oh.
Yes. So like it does range from that all the way to line dancing where you're not touching,
Mhm.
or minimal like East Coast swing, which is still a ballroom dance, or other ballroom dances. It could be waltz, could be tango. You don't think of that being sexual or sensual
Mhm.
in that way. So
So you're up there dancing at one of these legacy dance events or dancing up in the city at one of the events. You're just dancing with anybody. It doesn't matter. Like you're not going with someone, you're just finding people to dance with there, right?
correct. we will go, and I go by myself quite a bit. I just get the hankering. Like I said, you get addicted to it. You need a fix. You're like, I need to go dance. And so, sometimes I'll go with a group, sometimes I'll just go by myself. Like I said, once you get there, you have other friends and dance family that you meet up there.
Mhm.
You can go with someone or by yourself. And usually those classes are set up so that if you do come with a partner, we would all line up or get in a circle and we alternate partners. And it helps you become a better dancer because if you only dance with the same person, you're going to remain with those habits, with that style. Everyone's got a different feel in their connection, and it will improve, but not as fast as if you could do it with a different partner.
Well, line dancing has been, I mean, since I was a teenager and before that, I'm sure line dancing has been pretty popular even in rural areas and everywhere. But I have noticed that I think more in like the metro areas, the swing dancing seemed to have had a resurgence in the last decade or so. But it's mainly those urban areas. So it's awesome that your group, your legacy dance group, can bring it out to rural areas and have it where people don't have to go to St. Louis to be able to do it. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Or I've seen on social media that they have like dance competitions, but for adults, like ballroom dancing competitions or swing dances.
Yes.
Do they have those in St. Louis? Have you ever participated in any of that, actual contests?
Yes. Yes, I've competed quite a few times, and there's a very large West Coast swing dance competition up there that I compete in sometimes. It's usually in September, and there are hundreds of competitors there
Wow.
and all different ranges.
You were mentioning that you go to a dance hall or whatever in Pacific, was it? You said there was one, Stovall or something?
Yes, Stovall's Grove. I believe is it Eureka? I'd have to look up exactly what town it
So
sits
the
in.
funny thing about that is that you mentioned that, and when I heard it, I was so surprised because I interviewed for our last episode a gentleman whose name is Dr. Kenneth Johnson, and he wrote a book about Missouri dance halls in our area, like Gasconade, Franklin County, and he did all this research in all these dance halls, and he said that one of the only dance halls that from the 1920s and 30s, when a lot of these halls were founded in all these little towns, is that one. He said, if you want to see what a 1920s dance hall is like, how it operated, that one is one of the only that are still existing in this area that you can go to where it basically operates like it did almost 100 years ago.
Yes. Another one that I would highly suggest going and visiting is the Casa Loma Ballroom in St. Louis. I don't remember when it was founded and started
Mhm.
there, but it is a 1927.
Wow. So right around when
Yes.
right around when our book was set, 1928, the book for
Yes.
our community read. Yeah.
I highly suggest if anyone can get up there and attend any dances. They have done minimal renovations to keep it just as authentic as possible.
Well, Helen, thank you very much for joining us today. Once again, your programs will be at the Sullvan Branch on Thursday, April 17th at 6 p.m., the Hermann Branch on Tuesday, April 22nd at 6 p.m., and our Owensville Branch on Thursday, April 24th at 6 p.m. These programs are all free at the library, but there is a limit of 20 to 25 people for each program, so you can register. You need to register and register soon by visiting scenicregional.org/events. Thank you so much, Helen.
Thank you.
My next guest is Alicia Cullen, our St. Clair Branch Manager. Our St. Clair Branch has a community garden, and I asked Alicia to join me today to talk about it. Welcome, Alicia.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So let's get started. How did the community garden get started at your branch?
Well, we have to go back about 8 or 9 years, and there was some interest expressed into having a community garden. And in the summer of 2016, the two neighboring churches near us, the First Baptist Church and the United Methodist Church, each donated a little bit of land behind the library to be used as a community garden. And it has grown from there. See what I did there?
Pun intended.
Yes, definitely. Always
It,
intend your puns.
it was the farmers market, I believe, that reached out to us, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was.
And how many, so how many beds are there in your garden?
We have 14 vegetable beds, which are 4 feet by 8 feet. And then
Okay.
we have 8 smaller beds for flowers and herbs.
Okay. So how does somebody go about checking one of those beds out then?
Well, we do have a quote unquote application. It's not something that we review to see if you are accepted or not. It's just an informational form with your personal information on it. And they turn it in and I assign a bed. It's very simple.
So is there any kind of like orientation or meeting they have to go to before they can get started?
No, we used to do that, but we have foregone that this year. And people can just come in and get it's the agreement and the application, and then they have the rules and the policies in front of them that they can take home with them.
And they get that bed the entire season.
Yes, yes, they get it the entire growing season up through the end of October.
Do they have to bring their own tools and things? I mean, I assume like garden implements, rakes and hoes and shovels. Do they have to bring all that to the library each time they're working on the garden?
Well, we do have a water spigot there, which does have a hose, so they don't have
Okay.
to worry about bringing a water source. We do have a water source there. We do have some basic gardening tools available for checkout, but most people usually have their own tools. It's mostly the ones who are just getting started who maybe don't have their own tools.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you mentioned flower beds and vegetable beds, so they can pretty much grow whatever they want. They can grow herbs, they can grow vegetables, whatever they want to put in these beds. There's no limitations on that in any way.
Correct, yeah. We do ask that they don't grow anything invasive. I know, like mint, for instance, can be invasive. There may be some other herbs that are invasive. You don't want them to grow into other gardeners' beds. But yeah, otherwise they can grow vegetables, flowers, herbs. Yeah,
Okay, so how does someone go about checking out a bed then?
they just bring in that application form
Okay,
and I assign them a bed.
they need a library card.
Yeah, yes, they do.
Sure,
You do
okay,
have to have a library card in good standing. And most of our gardeners already did have a library card, so that really wasn't an issue.
and
Yeah.
what is the agreement that you said they have to go to get? They have to sign an agreement. What exactly does the agreement cover? What kind of things does it say?
It just has their personal information, like who can garden in the bed, how the other contact information, how I can get in touch with them if anything
Okay,
should be wrong with their bed. And they're basically signing off on the agreement and the policies of the community garden, which is attached to it.
okay, and that's on our website. You can get that on our website, right?
Yes, you can get it on our website, and we do have hard copies here at the St. Clair branch, but some people are more than welcome to just go to our website and print out that agreement and fill it out and bring it in to me. Mhm.
Okay, so someone checks out a bed. They've got it there for the growing season. What responsibilities do they have? Is there anything they have to do beyond just basically planting their own stuff, watering their own stuff, harvesting it? Is there any other responsibilities they have?
Well, they need to make sure that their garden bed is clean and like free of weeds. We don't want weeds to be growing into other gardeners' beds, but they just need to basically keep up their bed and make sure it's nice and presentable and doesn't have weeds in it.
I know we're working on your branch is the only branch right now that has a community garden, but we're actually opening one this year at our Owensville branch as well. And that has we are working with a partnership with the University of Missouri Extension in Franklin County, and they have it's a smaller garden than yours. They only have, I believe, 9 or 10 beds, the raised beds, and they're going to start at some point this growing. I believe this month they're actually going to start offering the beds for checkout, and we're going to use the library is going to use the same agreement that the St. Clair Garden has for the Owensville Garden too. So it'll work, but it'll work a little differently. I mean, there's still a water source there, everything. It looks a little different though. It's not fenced in. The beds are different because they were provided by extension. But for the most part, it's going to be the exact same situation, we hope.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting to be expanding this to some of our other branches.
How many
Yeah.
gardeners do you typically have in a year at your garden?
We average about 9 gardeners.
Wow.
I'm really hoping that we can generate more interest. However, since we do only have 9 gardeners, it gives our gardeners an opportunity to take an extra bed. So many of our community gardeners take 2 beds. because they're
yeah.
available. We want them to be used. We want people to grow in them. And if one of our existing gardeners can take on an extra bed, I think that's better than having nobody growing in there.
I was going to ask you that if they could get a second bed. Or they can do one flower bed and one vegetable bed, I guess.
Absolutely,
too, right?
yes. The flower beds, believe it or not, are not nearly as popular as the vegetable beds. I don't get many people checking out the flower beds. The last couple of years, we've had a few people, but I don't think we've had anybody before that.
They want the produce. That's
yes,
what they're
they
doing
do.
For.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Alicia, thank you for joining me today. Anyone interested in checking out a bed at the St. Clair Branch Community Garden can call Alicia at 636-629-2546. If you're interested in a bed at the new Owensville Branch Community Garden, you can call our manager there, Erica Mosley, at 573-299-0006. The community garden agreement for both those beds is located at scenicregional.org/garden agreement. Thanks, Alicia.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Well, that wraps up the latest episode of Taking the Scenic Route, Scenic Regional Library's podcast. I hope that you can join me again in 2 weeks when we release our next episode.